Good morning and welcome to the third episode of the Academy on Air on how to build a mobile strategy in 2018. My name's Connor and I'm joined by my colleague Indre today.
Hi everyone.
And we work as part of the mobile transformation team here in Dublin. So we have a lot that we want to get through today. So let's get started. So today we're going to actually look at the mobile trends for 2018. We need to look at the landscape first before we then go and look at how we can build out an effective strategy. With that in mind, 26, that's the number of smartphone or smart devices that a person will be connected to on average by 2020. And we expect that to be the average number of devices. Okay, so that means that if we're looking at what we have on ourselves right now, there's the nature of these devices are evolving, right? We have a smartphone, we might have a wristwatch. All devices are becoming smarter. They take on even more assistive roles in our lives. And by 2020, only 3 years from now, there'll roughly be 200 billion connected devices. So that's about 26 on average per person. That's up from about 2 billion in 2006. So quite a big change there. And if we want to look at the landscape then, as I mentioned, we need to look at the technology product life cycle and what is the next disruptor in this industry. So, okay, so the smartphone, something that we know is a mature market now. In 2007, with the launch of iPhone, they introduced, obviously taps, a kind of a keyboard-free phone, larger tap targets for apps. The phones have just gotten bigger and bigger, almost a hybrid between tablet and phone. Some call it phablet. We've seen a decline in the desktop market as well. So obviously more queries, roughly 50% of queries happening now on smartphones. But we've also seen an evolution too of wrist computers and smart speakers, which Indre will speak a bit to. And in addition to that, we have obviously augmented reality, virtual reality glasses, and people beginning to look at this technology. Face scanning is something is kind of on the roadmap as well for 2018 and beyond. So if we look at a few things in a bit more depth, we're going to talk about machine learning, we're going to look at smart speakers, and we're going to look at voice recognition, because there's plenty out there for voice recognition. We have Google Home, obviously using Google's Assistant, we have Siri from Apple, and we have Amazon's Alexa, so Amazon Echo. Cool, so machine learning, what is it? Essentially, it's just the science of making things smarter with the data. And so all we're really doing here is just actually looking at this data and analyzing that behavior to get a better understanding of consumers. Machine learning is also revolutionizing business by helping the marketers to be smarter with the data, leveraging AI in their marketing and becoming more efficient in how they operate. For example, if mobile phones are watched vertically, that's something we need to be aware of. So this can create poor experiences when we encounter videos that are built for horizontal viewing. So one thing that Google has done is enable an autoflip feature for Google Universal App campaigns, which uses machine learning to actually identify the most important objects in every frame to produce that optimized vertical content for your video ads. So when a user is viewing content like this, and not like this, we've seen an uplift of about 20% higher on dynamically generated vertical ads than a horizontal ad when it's being viewed. So then, Indre, do you want to talk a bit about smart speakers?
Yeah, of course. That's another technology trend that we see emerging and growing a lot. More and more users are having smart devices. Google Assistant is integrated in our Android phones. So it's really important to think what would be the next things that are coming in for marketing and for you guys. We see that users are less likely to prefer to reach out to customer service representatives over phone. So it's more likely that users that have customer service queries would prefer to use Messenger, WhatsApp, or different kind of ways to reach out to a customer representative. Smart speakers is another platform that is very likely to grow, especially in customer service type of environment and services. Also, when it comes to having these devices, oftentimes users say, and research shows that about 50% of users are likely to use these devices for purchase behavior. So what we see, for example, Nike emerging this trend and kind of trying to lead and be thought leader on it, they're allowing to buy their products using the smart speakers. So we see we will probably see a lot more of this activity in the future. So that's something to keep in mind and try to see what are creative ways to emerge this technology. And another trend that is quite similar to that is voice recognition, and especially voice search. So as users, we're always likely to search for different shortcuts to make our day more efficient, more effective. We try to be smarter in how we approach different mundane type of tasks. So oftentimes we use Assistant to set a reminder, to set a timer when we're cooking, to potentially try and ask assistants to play different song that we want them to play, or kind of try to search for relatively simple type of information. So voice recognition is another thing that is only likely to grow and emerge. And right now, even Google Home is recognizing up to 6 different voices. So that's quite incredible. All the household basically can use this device and embrace this technology. And we see, again, more brands and more companies embracing it. For example, Starbucks is testing now the virtual barista. And I think more and more clients like Walmart and different flower delivery companies are emerging and testing it out. So
yeah, we only see this trend looking to grow. Like 20% of Google searches made in the app are now obviously by voice as opposed to written. In addition to that, you know, voice search is around 50%. We expect it to be 50% of all searches by 2020 . So
yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, I'm personally excited to see what will come up and what's likely to emerge.
Great. And then the mobile experience, then, you know, that one that you're offering to your users right now, it's more important than ever, right?
Yeah, exactly. And especially if, for example, users accessing your website for the very first time on a mobile device and they don't have this good experience, they are not very likely to remember and to come back to the site.
You wouldn't either. Like we put this in relation to a restaurant business, you know, if it's a store, even if you have a really bad checkout experience or whatever the case may be, you're just not going to go back. You go for the competitor.
Yeah, exactly. So that's something to keep in mind when creating these good, positive user experiences.
Cool. And then, like with creating these good, positive user in mind experiences, like we also have to be aware of how our users have evolved with this technology. So they're now a super empowered consumer, right? That's what's emerged from this. You know, we know that. We know that, like with the consumers which have evolved with that technology, they are more informed. They want they expect assistive experiences, and that has to be useful. It has to be personal, and it has to be frictionless. So for mobile, for example, what you mentioned there, Indre, think FIRE. So we think fast, integrated, reliable, and engaging. You have to do all of those things. You have to deliver because that's what you're being benchmarked against, you know, with Starbucks and all the other brands that are out there. And we need to connect more effectively to those customers when we know that, right? So improving how we target the mobile customer, leveraging automation, going faster. And then that also brings in the need to measure and attribute more accurately the mobile interactions you're having, what it's actually doing or driving for the business to efficiently set your bids according to that Lastclick model. Cool. So the super empowered consumer is 3 things. They're curious, like myself and Indre. We're always interested in trends. They're demanding, not like Indre. I'm quite demanding. I want things now in that moment, and I don't want to have to do a lot of work for it. And they can sometimes be impatient. So you need to capture that intent when they're actually displaying those type of things. And we're going to talk briefly about those 3 things. So how does curious come into play, right? So we see that in the last 2 years, past years, we've seen mobile searches for best shower curtains more than double, right? So you can see that in the bottom right there. Over 100% queries have doubled for best shower curtains. Even the most mundane things like best toothbrushes. I don't know if you've done that yourself, Indre. Best umbrellas.
Best hairbrushes.
Best hairbrushes.
I think a lot of users are searching for best type of product they can buy. And that's why we see the emerging trend of listicles being so prominent. I think we always try to see what are the best products and how can we be more efficient in our purchases.
Totally, yeah. So this is the research before we go and make that purchase. And, you know, there, best travel pillow, like we've seen that 300% increase, right? And whilst they're also looking for best products, they're also looking for worst. So we're always trying to find, we want to be more informed. We don't want to make a bad purchasing decision. And this is the way our users are going. And okay, so like that's happening, but like why, right? So there's nothing big happening here in terms of looking, okay, toothbrushes are increasing, or searches for best umbrellas. But what's really apparent, and it's become apparent to marketers who are tuned into this data, is that this is for both high and low consideration items, right? So before it would have been cars and appliances maybe that were high, whereas now like deodorants, best hairbrushes, even toothbrushes, they were low, but now that's all changed, right? The consumer dictates the level of consideration given for him or herself before they buy. So every product has now become high consideration. We're all scrutinizing over that. Okay, demanding, Indre. So I don't know about you, but when I search for a Thai restaurant, I don't expect to search for Thai restaurant near me. No.
Yeah, proximity is really something that is very important for the users, especially we will see this trend as well, that we are very likely to not plan very much in advance. So we want the results now, and there are so many companies that are actually offering the experience that they're maybe open longer hours, or they're offering faster delivery. So oftentimes we try to find shortcuts, and especially when it comes to being very spontaneous in our decisions, which near me represents perfectly.
Exactly. The shortcuts is the key word that you use there. I think that's a good way to put it. Like, we're looking at trying to be more assistive, so we don't have to include the words near me. In fact, as you can see here, we've included searches including near me are becoming rarer, right? So before we used to see that, like pubs near me, pubs nearby. That's not happening, right? They're looking for traditional Irish pubs, and they're in that area. They expect you to know they're in this proximity or radius. And so, yeah, I can see this now as consumers expect that assistance everywhere. If it's booking a seat on EasyJet, for example, with the fact that we have machine learning, we expect that you're incorporating that into your mobile strategy to pick the favorite seat. Indre might like to fly on the right-hand side of the plane. I might like to choose always on the left-hand side, right? And EasyJet are a business that are doing that, where they're actually looking at, this is the seat they booked the last time, if it's available, and they'll try and offer that to you again. We also compare our experience with booking.com as another. This is great that they have all my credentials managed. You don't have to fill out everything again. I'm auto logged in across device. This is a great user experience when I'm looking for that next top hotel I want to book. So if your brand isn't there, helping them to find what they need, well then, another brand will be. And to succeed, businesses must deliver those assistive experiences that are useful, personal, and frictionless. Those are the three things I just want to take away from today. And this kind of expert technology helps the brands know what would be useful for them at that very moment in time, as we explained. We don't want to have to reintroduce ourselves every time. It's just a nuisance, really, spelling it out. Cool.
Yeah, when it comes to being impatient, we see that there are a lot of people that are searching for information that is relatively spontaneous. So, for example, you're maybe have an idea that you want to buy a camera, and you're likely to visit it and see it and experience it in a store, and then trying to find ways, which provider has a better deal. So, when it comes to being impatient, it really comes back to being very fast and user-centric. So oftentimes, site loading time is very important, as well as sites that do make sense and are user-centric and offer good user experiences are likely to succeed and be preferred by our users. So we talked about a bunch of examples, but more and more companies are using fast delivery offerings. So we see users demanding this type of service, and in fact, we see that specific searches for same-day delivery have doubled. And also, what I mentioned about being spontaneous without planning, oftentimes users are much more likely to search for today, tonight, this weekend, kind of very specific, not planning in advance type of queries. And also another one is open now. So we see that this specific search term has tripled in the recent times.
Yeah, so all of those things, the focus on curiosity, how demanding our consumers are, and impatient, as you said. So same day delivery today, now? When is it open? And therefore, like, customer experience are not the product challenge or a marketing challenge. We flip that on its head and say it's the opportunity, it's a business priority, right? So this is how we win with mobile. This is how we focus on our customer and get it right and grow as a business. We need to connect better with those customers. We need to assist them more. We need to have a site that loads in a fast speed, near instant these days, and user experience needs to be roadblock free as well. Cool. So how can we action? So we've learned a bit about the landscape. We've talked a bit about the consumer and how they've evolved, but how can you take action now, today? And this is, I guess, more AdWords related, and also kind of related to your mobile assets, your site, as well as kind of choosing the right mobile investment after you're accurately measuring. So the first one there, creating ads, obviously delivering better mobile site experience, as I said, and measuring beyond last click is all important, and setting bids through smarter bidding. Okay, we'll take the first one then, creating ads. Something I have great experience with. Obviously, I'm working with Indre now, but I previously was an account manager at Google, so I understand a great deal about how important this is. So getting your creatives right is a really important thing, because this is your first impression on Google search, which has been a great impression, hopefully, where we're showing the right results. So you want to continue that, don't you?
Exactly.
And that if we kind of have a great search result, well, we expect to show them a great mobile ad. We want to ensure that that customer experience isn't fragmented and it doesn't go from great to awful from that very beginning when they start with that click on the ad. Okay, so here's an example. Create ad text that appeals to users across devices. So very simple thing, but as you can see there, you need to tie your creatives to the actual keywords themselves and the ad copy you have, right? So that goes from the headline, the description, what you're saying in that kind of small real estate that you have on Google. What I mean by that is when your call to actions can be done or accomplished on those devices, that makes for a much better user experience. And so, like, a compelling call to action, why? Well, on one device, that tends to be more compelling on another, right? So if there's someone on a desktop, there could be a slightly different creative for that mobile user who is perhaps going through the shopping center and you want to drive to your store. Enticing them with like a discount offer can be good. Obviously we want to have like all the extensions as well. So creating best-in-class messaging. So those are the performance add-ons from a Google standpoint. We can see callouts there, site links to bring you to the right relevant page on the website. Callouts, so just some areas that they're not clickable, but you can see get started, all that kind of thing. And then, we have other extensions like price extensions. We have app extensions if you want them to download your app. Review extensions if you want to show kind of great customer testimonials or reviews up front, which is a good idea. And then we also have location extensions, which are all important if you're looking to drive omnichannel into the physical store. So why extensions? I've kind of talked about that, is delivering that additional info that's relevant to assist the user and provide alternative ways for them to interact with you. So I can give an example of call to message, click to message extension, where perhaps a user doesn't want to use your chat functionality on the site or get in touch with your sales team on the phone, but maybe they want to drop you a message so that they can, you can continue the conversation there. So giving the consumer choice, I think, is all important. Okay, and speaking to mobile users with if functions. So this is kind of looking at a little bit of the AI machine learning type of thing where, okay, we're being smarter here. We're customizing our ads and we're doing that at scale so that you don't actually have to do this for every individual ad copy. You don't have to do that. You should reach out to your account managers on how to do this, but if functions are a great way of if someone is browsing on a mobile device and actually sees an ad, you can show them that tailored message. So versus a desktop, right? So keep in mind that ad creative could reflect the action you wish them to take from mobile. And you can switch that ad creative quite easily using if functions as it detects that consumer on a smartphone device. And then why, you can highlight those call to actions. They work particularly well on mobile, as I've said. But what else do you need to do? You need to test and iterate. This is all theory, but this is only good if you put it into practice. So being organized, using things like AdWords labels in your AdWords account always helps for good account hygiene. Documenting when you've added new ads, perhaps, to new ad groups. You know, obviously we wouldn't recommend you have just one ad creative. Try testing between 3 to 4. Review ad group metrics. So what ones are actually getting the majority of the traffic, impressions, you know, what ads are resonating with your consumers and converting users. And also looking at impression share is important too. So how much of those ad copies triggered by the keywords are actually getting visibility. That's really what it is in the auctions. And then deleting ads once they stop seeing a sizable chunk of impressions. So it's fine to have lots of different ads running. That's a clear message we need to test. And then focusing a bit more on audience, like, you know, reaching users with remarketing and customer match. Some users may not be coming to the website for the very first time. In that case, we should not be showing them the same message all over again. You know, remarketing, just to briefly touch on that, we'd want to maybe show another a variant of what you've said to your previous creative for a first-time mobile user. Customer match, on the other hand, you may, you know, these are people who you've uploaded your first-party data, and you can either include as another audience to target with a separate creative, or you can exclude them. And that's something that I often got as an account manager too, is that, hey, I don't want to target these people, and that's okay. You can use customer match to also exclude, and again, reach out to your account managers on that one. And yeah, so why? So I've kind of explained that. Users then just shift from one device to another as they visit your site or visit your store, call and text. Like that, it's very straightforward. Indre, this is definitely your area of expertise, delivering great mobile sites.
Yeah, and something I'm definitely very passionate about. So I think it's very important to think of what happens after users are actually clicking on your ad and delivering great user experience there. So after you paid for the user to come to your site to spend some time on investigating your product and service, you want to be sure that your site is fast enough, it works well. So one of the things that we typically recommend to keep in mind or test for would be site loading speed. It's likely to benefit you in your organic search rankings as well, because speed will be considered to be one of the ranking signals going forward. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, one of the very simple advices that oftentimes we see that is being overlooked is making sure that the URL you're using for your AdWords ads is actually the final one. So making sure that there are no redirects. Having a redirect and not using the correct URL in your AdWords campaigns can really cause about 1 to 2 second delays. And it might sound as, you know, just 1 or 2 seconds, but it can really have a strong effect on your performance and especially return on investment that you're spending with your advertising. And also when it comes to having these positive user experiences, we talked about having stellar, delightful experiences a lot. And one of the things that we come back to again and again is site loading speed. Test My Site is one of the tools that are a bit more marketing friendly, which allows you to see how fast or slow your site is, where you stand compared to competition, and how many users you're using specifically for speed issues. There are different tools you could be using. For example, if you use Chrome and go into Audits tab, you're able to see Lighthouse tool, which is another tool we recommend using. It allows you to see many different things. Again, it can be a bit more web developer friendly because you're able to see your waterfall and how different files are being loaded. But Lighthouse Score also allows you to see where you stand in terms of user experience, accessibility, best practices, and also how fast your site is. Also, another tool we typically recommend using is called Web Page Test, where you're also able to see film strip view functionality and investigate how your site is being loaded at which particular stage, which is a very user-centric way of approaching it, right? Because you can see exact amount of first screen being filled in at which stage, which really corresponds to site being user-centric and loaded in a very fast way possible. Moving forward, and talking about measuring mobile interactions and being a bit more driven by data.
Yeah. So like, I mean, thanks, Ray. Like you've talked about everything that's important, you know, the visual aspect of your site loading, you know, how fast that loads. And then obviously we've talked about the redirects, eliminating those type of things that cause minor delays, but they make the difference in incremental performance. what is a game changer for people who are maybe looking to improve their mobile strategy is to start thinking about mobile in the right way. What does that mean? That means moving beyond the last click. So moving to a non-last click attribution model is definitely something we recommend. So today, more than half of all search traffic is coming from mobile, right, and tablets, resulting in that increase of complexity, a fragmented user journey. It's just very difficult to assign credit. And we definitely shouldn't be assigning full value or credit to that last click. It's like, I don't know, Johnny Sexton's drop goal for Ireland in the Six Nations, where there was 41 phases before and the entire team were involved, but saying, do you know what? Johnny Sexton won Ireland that game against France. That's not the case, right? We all know that. So 79% of consumers use their smartphones to do product research, as we alluded to, for toothbrushes, for basic things, hairbrushes, and then 60% of the ads that consumers actually identified were influential from mobile devices when they were making those purchase decisions. And then we've also seen from our research that 44% of online adults start an activity on one device, but like to go across device and continue it on another device, finish on another. We call that multi-screening. So we often see much higher volume of conversions and better business impact and results from an investment in attribution thinking. So we need to really transform the business. Maybe it's a data-driven attribution model, or it could be time decay, it could be position-based. It doesn't matter. You need to look at your own data and to actually assess what is the right model to apply, whether it's static or whether you're using your actual data. This is because return on ad spend, your return on ad spend is all important. So yeah, so like preventing you from understanding the impact of other interactions. If we are using last click attribution, that's exactly what you're doing, and that's why we need to change. So account for mobile conversions. Yes, like we can see there that conversions that can and should be measured are at the far right there, the total conversions. And currently you're seeing conversions measured in that way, where it's just same device. Of course, there are other conversions, like conversions that had cross-device activity, mobile app conversions, if that's something that you're interested in, how many calls are happening through mobile. Like that's something that myself and Indra are proud of. It's not just conversions through your website. We're looking to drive more phone calls for the business, or in-store visits, right? So if you feel you've got an excellent sales team, whether it's on the phones or in your physical bricks and mortar stores, you should be measuring those, because you could be massively undervaluing the online kind of contribution from mobile. Okay, mobile action, yeah, so the mobile interactions lead to those offline actions, as I've alluded to. Some estimates can be helpful as that measurement improves. But what do you need to track? The most important interactions for mobile, I've listed some of them here. So website call conversions, you can do that through simple AdWords conversion tracking. You can also use cross-device conversions. Again, something that's already existing in your AdWords account, so you should reach out to your account managers about. Calls from ads of your website, so that can be very simple, using a Google forwarding number or website call conversion tracking, or you might be using your own third-party response tap, or some kind of response third-party to track your phone calls, messages. You can again use third-party tools for that. Shop visits, AdWords shop visit conversion tracking. We have in-store purchases. That's something that's really useful, using conversion import from Google Analytics, and then we also have app installs and in-app actions. So that's something a little separate, where you'd need to use in-app conversion tracking, but again, set up through AdWords. Okay, so you can update your strategy investment based on those interactions, because if we can't measure, well, then how can we improve? And also, how do we know whether we should invest more on mobile device bids, for example? So we need to set bids that are profitable. That goes without saying. And how do we do it? Well, automating your bids by using smart bidding. Why? Well, there's two things here to this. So like obviously we have working faster, we have working smarter, but that doesn't tell me a whole lot, right? So working smarter. So firstly, we want to allow your business to free up the time so that you can actually dedicate more of your value add activities for the business and provide impactful insights to your clients, or whatever the case may be. We don't want people managing their AdWords accounts or keywords or device manually. Why not? Because it's not a good investment of their time. It's not working smart. It may be working harder though. Working faster is leveraging AI and machine learning, as I said. So we have our algorithms which rapidly analyze 70 million signals processed within the blink of an eye. And that's by Google's algorithm. So why not use that? It's definitely more than I can, or Indre, or perhaps you at home can personally process within AdWords, right? So these are just two reasons why you should automate your bidding. So smart bidding, yeah. So we've talked about also the fact that it considers device type and the browser to make auction time bids. That gives you better results. And how so? Right. Well, we set specific device bids, right? So whether that's target CPA, enhanced CPC, or target ROAS, there are many options in terms of bid strategies that you should explore. Enhanced CPC is kind of a step in the right direction, which kind of gives you, I suppose, it kind of helps you with the automation side, but it's not giving full control to your AdWords bidding. You're still manually placing CPC bids, and you can still have device bids. With target CPA, you're setting like a maximum that you would be willing to pay for that cost per acquisition. And with ROAS, that's obviously the pinnacle where you're looking to reach, where you're actually using your business data that's telling you how much you're getting on your ad spend, so your return on ad spend, right? So that's something really valuable if you can get there. So something you should really be working with towards the automated bid strategies with your account managers. That gets you the right level, setting the right level of mobile investment.